So they will be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode we saw a lot of things happen. We saw the War of 1 AD between the Triangle Alliance and the Romani Empire, which ended in the victory of the Romani Empire, which led to them gaining a lot of land and becoming very big. Also we saw the formation of the Farmers Union and the Dutch Empire, as well as we saw a war here in Egypt which led to the blue team or Merodria getting a lot of land. But hold on a second, why did I call it Merodria? Well, I'm glad you asked, and here I'm gonna say that I updated the layers. All the layers are now updated, including provinces and all that, but also there's a new layer that I did that I'm super proud of, and this is the country names layer. And now all the countries have actual official names. We have countries like the red team that are now called Aldicta, the yellow team Teria, blue team Merodria, and so on and so forth. There's of course the Romani Empire, the Farmers Union, Galicia, Andalusia, but there's also countries like the Deerlandian Empire, which I haven't mentioned so far. And I'm gonna say this, I'm super excited to use this layer throughout the rest of the series. So let's waste no time and get straight into this video. Now the first thing I wanna do in this video is to go to the ideology layer and discuss Merodria. In the last episode we saw them getting a new leader known as Zim of Zalens, and this leader was very great, and he's the leader that ruled Merodria during the War of the Nile, which led to the formation of kind of a Merodrian empire. But at this point in the series, time is moving very quick and the pace of the series is understandably so very quick. So he's already dead, and not only he is dead, but his son is dead and his grandson is dead. So now there's Zim of Zalens the fourth, which is in the power of Merodria, and he wants to carry on the legacy of his great grandfather and to continue expanding and make Merodria a world superpower. But he feels like he needs more power, and to do this he will proclaim Merodria as a dictatorship. Now Aldicta, Makia, and Koza, the central Turkish team in here, are now joined by Merodria in the gang of the dictatorships. This will for sure be interesting to see how it will progress in the series, but for now they are a dictatorship. But jumping from a dictatorship to another dictatorship, we'll go back to Aldicta, which is having some pretty bad instability. This is the stability layer. Basically, the greener the better and the redder the worse. We see countries like Teria, the Farmers Union, or Deerlandia, which are super stable. They have little to no instability. And then we have countries like Kadosh or Lovia, basically Libya and Israel, which are kind of stable. Then there are countries with mid stability like Merodria, and then there is countries with outright instability, which are Aldicta and Tanish with Andalusia, which of course they are unstable because of the War of 1 AD from the last episode. But Aldicta is having some super bad instability, so this will decrease them from orange stability all the way to red stability. So now Aldicta is in a state of instability, and this will for sure affect them maybe sooner than we might expect. But now there's something I wanna do, and this is trade routes. By this point trade routes are super common, so we'll see which ones are where. We'll begin straight where it all started in Aldicta, and we'll see the first trade routes right here around the Somalian coast. It will go up into the Somaliland regions where the former Lime team was. By here it separates straight to Aldicta's capital and into Merodria, merging with their capital. Also we see it go into Teria and across into Arabia, where from here it will go towards the Terian capital, straight into here. And here it continues into Merodria going up north, and actually I'm gonna skip straight to the full completed thing. This is the entire trade route network. It goes from Aldicta all the way to Teria, to Merodria, into Kadosh, into Lovia, Algeli, and from there into Europe, into some major cities and capitals. But for now it isn't very advanced due to the early ages that we are in. We are in about 100 AD. But now let's get into some actual map changing stuff. First we are gonna go to the Dirlandian Empire. What they will do is that they will focus up north and set some claims into the Scandinavian region. They will annex some land and colonize here in the tip of Sweden, moving across these lands and also taking some Norwegian lands. Just about this, some pretty healthy amount of lands, taking it just like this and setting up a pretty good influence across this area and the few people that live in here, which is honestly a super good early point for the Dirlandian Empire. Also the Dirlandian Empire, but also with some maybe sort of help from the Roman Empire, will manage to discover the British Isles. They will move across this tip of Britain, and shortly after the main British Isle will get discovered, shortly after followed by Ireland, and now the British Isles are discovered, and I'm sure this will not lead to any sort of colonization or colonial empires in this series. I'm sure of this. And let's say that actually there's a pretty good chance for it to not be, because we are gonna see an orangish Ireland nation form in here in the British Isles, which will also take the Isle of Man. But these guys are super neutral, and because of this they will form a new ideology. This ideology will be represented by a white circle, and it will be known as neutralism. Basically this ideology is one that's super neutral. Basically it's based around you being neutral and not going to war. So this is a nice ideology, but I'm not sure if people are gonna respect their ideals. And this will for sure not be the case with Dirlandia, which will quickly move across the main British Isle, wanting to take as much land as possible for themselves, because they do not want to let anybody steal their land, especially the Romani Empire again. The Romani Empire and the Dirlandian Empire is literally North and South Korea, but on crack. And this will make Dirlandia want to spread their influence and not let anybody take that, and they will move across here. But now the new Irish nation will make its move. This move is them going and taking the rest of the British Isle, splitting it like this, and now allow me to fix these borders. This is how the British Isles are gonna be split, and most of it went to the Dirlandian Empire, but also a good bit of it went to the Irish nation, which is honestly pretty impressive. But let's just say that these borders will for sure not cause any wars. Now we are gonna have the rest of Scandinavia being explored, and with this we are gonna have even more explorations in the east. In these Russian regions we are gonna have basically Dirlandians, but also Farmeran, also Romanis. We are basically gonna have a lot of people move across these areas and exploring them, mapping them out. Again, basically this set of people in this timeline, they are super dedicated to exploring. Basically the most common job is being an explorer and a cartographer and all that. Basically people are into this kind of stuff of going and exploring new lands and finding new homes to settle. As we get around here, we are gonna have a lot of new countries being formed in the Russian regions, and not only that. Finally, in 122 AD, we are gonna have the South African region finally being explored, and with this we have the entirety of Africa being explored. It's now all mapped out, and now we can get to the new countries that will be formed. This is the full map with all the countries, and we will review each of the countries right now. We will have an Estonian St. Petersburg country, a purple Russian country, a teal Crimean nation, a gold Russian nation which is used as a checkpoint for further explorations in the east. We have a Gambia nation, two Sahara nations which prosper from the resources but also not really because they don't really have people due to it being the Sahara Desert and being very hot. You'll have a pink nation right here which is alarmingly close to Al Dicta, an Angolan team, and a South African nation. And this is good all in all, but now we are gonna have some unions happening. Now unions aren't very common, in fact they are not. I don't think we have had a single union up until now. But basically multiple nations that have very good relations will decide to put themselves and their powers together and form one big entity, and the one that will be the first union will be right here in Africa with these two nations formerly standing from Makia or Nigeria, if you wanna call it that. They wish to retake their old home and form a democratic order here in Central Africa. So they will decide to do step 1 of this plan, and that is for these two to unite. And the color of this nation will be this very nice pinkish color, even though it's kind of similar to the one down there, but you know, it's pretty far away, so we don't have to bother about that. Now what about the capital? They will decide to use none of their old capitals due to them not wanting to cause any conflict between the two nations and between the two sides, and instead they will use a new capital. They will go and promote this major city as their new capital, just like this. And now we can add back their old capitals as major cities, and bam, now we have a new union in here, and the first of its kind. The next union will be here in Anatolia with the Pink Nation and the Istanbul nations uniting into this dark blue country. Again, for capitals they won't use any of the old capitals, and instead they will find a new one, the new one being right in this major city where their new capital of this union will be. And now Anatolia is starting to unionize after just being balkanized 2 episodes ago. Now we are gonna jump to the tip of India where something very interesting will happen, and that is that a new set of humans will appear. They will appear right here in the tip of India, quickly starting to explore these lands, and it's more of a unique type of human. They have way less hair and they are very different from the humans that we have so far, and they are way taller, like modern day tall, like 170 centimeters tall, like. And they are gonna, well, explore the areas they have just popped in, and they will get among here where they will establish kind of their own type of civilization. The first Indian nation will pop out in here, taking a lot of this land and basically claiming everything they have explored so far, and it will appear around here just like this. Also they will have Sri Lanka, and do not ask anything about this color. I'm sure it's not the color of one of the most significant 80s pro Wicso nations. Second Indian nation that will pop out due to some arguments breaking out between this group of humans will be this kind of orangish Indian group that will be right in here. And now we have kind of like a second set of humans that for now don't know about the rest of the humans in here, and the rest of the humans, basically the main group of humans that have popped out so far, doesn't know about the Indians. These two Indian nations will be so different, in fact, that they will not even have capitals. Now we are gonna jump back to Teria because they haven't done anything in quite a while. The last thing they did was to move their capital, but now after stabilizing very well and becoming, well, the most powerful nation in the world, they will go in and expand across the Persian regions, and Teria will be claiming all these lands, and now Teria is super big. It's a super big nation now, and It's once again showing why it is the strongest nation in the world, but let's say that there is a country that might challenge them for this role, and this is Merodria. Now Merodria has been on the grind and now they are the second strongest country in the world. They passed Aldicta, they were the third before and now they passed Aldicta and they are the second strongest country in the world. And honestly they are competing pretty well against Teria, and now they will do their move, the move being the invasion of the Square team. In the last episode we saw that Egypt got clapped by the Square Alliance, which was signed between Kadosh and Lovia, and basically that cooked Egypt, but now Merodria is way more prepared than Egypt, and when they will feel that the right moment has come, they will strike. Merodria will quickly move their armies up north into Kadosh, taking the Nile Delta, a super vital area for Kadosh, and it's a super big loss that they have lost it. By now they will invite their ally Lovia into this war, and poor Lovia thinks that this will be an easy victory. They felt like, hey, if we defeated Egypt we can defeat Merodria, but this is not the case as Merodria is way more prepared, and they will actually send their main divisions in Lovia to take down the weaker opponent and then go to the stronger one, which is Kadosh. They'll move their armies in here, taking lots of land and quickly taking land towards their capital, being ready to take it, but for now that wouldn't happen because we will have to go up to Kadosh because something interesting is gonna happen. That certain interesting thing is Teria starting to invade into Kadosh, and Kadosh is immediately like, wait, Teria, what are you doing? Why are you invading me? And Teria's reasoning for this, it's because, you know, if they were to not join this war, basically Merodria will for sure win and they risk to take all of Kadosh, which will be very bad for Teria. So they decided, hey, they are not gonna win this, we do not want to fight Merodria, they are a super strong nation, so it's just better to pick up the remains. So Teria will use its strongest army in the world to quickly move across the Kadoshian lands, taking some of their Anatolian parts and threatening these countries because of this, but they have nothing to do with these countries and they will basically move throughout these regions, getting to the populated parts of Kadosh and basically taking all of the nation in a super short while, and Kadosh is almost non-existent. Now Merodria will see this and they will be like, whoa, wait, we did not expect for Teria to join this war, we need to get Kadosh out now. And to be honest, this wouldn't be that hard of a task. Already the main Kadoshian forces were wiped out by Teria, so it wouldn't be hard for Merodria to just send a few divisions from the Lovian front and basically exterminate the rest of Kadosh. Well, thankfully for Lovia, due to Merodria pulling some of their armies from their front to fight Kadosh, they will manage to do a pretty good pushback against Merodria, but when the divisions come back it will just not be good. And now all of the Merodrian divisions are pointed at Lovia's capital and Lovia itself, hoping to exterminate this country like how they did with Kadosh, and that's exactly how they will do. They'll take their capital and proceed to absolutely clap the rest of Lovia, so let's see this peace treaty. So as you can see in this peace treaty, both Merodria and Teria got a lot of land. Merodria fully annexed Lovia, also known as the Libyan nation, and took all of the Egyptian claims from Kadosh, also taking the Suez Israeli region. The rest of Kadosh simply enough was taken by Teria. These are the borders, and now we see that Teria and Merodria are now two ops and they now share a border with each other. And with this we are gonna see that they will start beefing, but let's not forget that also Aldicta is in this. Aldicta is beefing with both Merodria and Teria, and now we have Merodria and Teria beefing with each other, and this is exactly how it sounds like, a tripolar system, but not quite, because now we are gonna go back to Aldicta, and let's say this, they have a lot of instability. I showed you this at the beginning of the video, but Aldicta turned red, and now they will turn more than red, they will turn dark red, which means that they are in an active state of collapse, and this is not gonna sit well with the people, and they will take action. Aldicta's government has been too totalitarian, they have overused their power, they used to be the strongest, then they were passed by Teria, and now they are passed by Merodria, and now even the Romani Empire is starting to pass them, and this is not right with the people. They have annexed too much land, they have overused their power, they have become too cruel, and now we are gonna have the first revolution happening. People do not want to rebel away from Aldicta, they want to keep their empire, but they want to make it a good place to live in. So we are gonna have the revolution begin around Lake Tanganyika, and this lake quickly keeping progress going across the nation and taking more and more land, and they will pick up steam. They will immediately move across basically the borders of Aldicta, and let's remember we are still in the ancient times, and again we are in the ancient times, we do not have technology, so if something like this happens, it's super hard to communicate with people and basically tell them, wait, we are having a revolution, this is not right, we should retaliate against this. So until the useless Aldictan government finds out, already the revolution will take a lot of borderlands in here and have a lot of success, basically now moving across the actual main Aldictan lands. It gets about to this until the Aldictan government finally notices, finally someone gives the king the news that this is happening, and now the Aldictan government will finally retaliate. Aldicta will send their armies in here, managing to do very well against the revolution, and they will push them very far back, almost to where they began. Also they will have success in here, almost pushing them back to the border. But this is where Aldicta's luck finally runs out, because they have been too totalitarian and way too strict with their population. They have once again abused their power, and now this will come back to hit them, as the revolution will start doing great. Basically Aldicta's military will turn against the king or the dictator, it carries both of those titles, and it will move across all these regions, as basically the entire Aldictan military will turn against the king, and now they are making very good pushbacks and pushes towards the Aldictan capital. Also in the south we have the same thing happening, with this front basically collapsing, and people of the former purple Somalian nation will welcome the rebellions and the revolution with open arms, and basically we'll have all these territories of that set old nation succumb to the revolution. Also the territories of the former Lime team will also join the revolution, followed by the capturing of Socotra. After this we have fighting in the actual Aldictan mainland. We have basically forces managing to cramp the Aldictan government on all sides, taking more and more land, hoping to finally take the capital and end the king's life. Also now they will meet across the Terian border, and they will have a lot of success in here, almost taking the Aldictan capital, and now Aldicta is failing on all fronts. Poor Aldicta has been here since day one, but now they are finally getting defeated, and a new government will be installed very soon, because now again they are losing on all fronts, and they will be squeezed back to their old capital, basically where civilization all began, and now we are gonna have the last fighting of the Aldictan government. Putting on major cities, we see that this is the map of Aldicta with major cities, and now the battalions of the revolutionary forces will move in, taking one of the major cities, and quickly threatening another one, followed shortly by taking it. Also, they will threaten these two twin cities, taking one and then another. As for the Therian divisions, they will take this major city, then taking this one that they were already very close to. They'll take the next one. The last one will be captured by the revolutionary forces. And now the fighting will be at Aldicta's capital, with battalions moving towards the gates of the city. Also another battalion will come from the south. One will come from here, hoping for all of them to meet in the middle. But the Aldictan army will be successful in pushing two of these, but the next one will get super close before it will get cut off by the Aldictan divisions, which have basically saved up all their armies, especially for this one battle. Now the Aldictan forces will go in hoping to retake one of the major cities. Also they will make strides to recapture these two, but this is where their luck ends, because now we'll have more divisions be sent, this time with 4 divisions and 4 battalions, hoping to meet in the middle. These two managed to make an encirclement, a super great encirclement which will lead to a super bad Aldictan defeat, followed by this encirclement, followed by another super big Aldictan defeat, followed by the 2 divisions meeting in the middle, taking the capital and leaving only 2 parts of Aldicta's old government remaining. 3 days later we will have the first pocket being wiped out, and 4 days later we will have the last pocket of Aldicta's old government also being defeated. And now we see that Aldicta's government has fully fallen. The old Aldictan dictatorial government has been eradicated, and now a new democratic order will take place, and this will finally bring democracy to Aldicta. In this peace treaty we see no map changes obviously, but on the ideological map we see that the new Aldictan government will come into power, and it will turn Aldicta from a dictatorship into a democracy, and now finally democracy was brought to Aldicta. And now this is interesting because there is no longer a dictatorship that it's Aldicta to bully the world, but now we will have to focus on their northern neighbor, and that is Merodria. And for the final event of this video we will have a super short one, but it is the fact that Merodria will heavily militarize, they will heavily build their economy, now with an Aldicta that is no longer a dictatorship and it's now a democracy. Now the world will see them as a threat, so they will use this as an excuse to militarize. They will focus, they will militarize, they will build their economy, and in the year 200 AD you will see that Theria will get knocked from the throne. They will no longer be the strongest country in the world, and now the strongest country in the world is Merodria. Merodria is the new strongest nation in the world, and they have just took Theria's place, and this will for sure have a very big effect across the world. The first thing I wanna address is the fact that in the last episode we saw the Turkish Union forming, and on the ideology map we see that they are a democracy, but their neighbor in the South Koza is a dictatorship, and this nation thrives off of democracy and they wanna get rid of dictatorship, so they will be declaring war on Koza. We will have the Turkish Union forces moving across Koza, taking a lot of land and hoping to overthrow the dictatorial government of Koza, hoping to not only install a democratic government, but to make Koza a part of the Turkish Union and overthrow this nation as a whole, and for now they will do very well in this war. They will move more across here in the northern parts of Koza, where there is little to no defenses, so this area will be quickly captured by the Turkish Union, and hoping to meet with the border with Theria. Here they will get very close to the capital, attempting to do an encirclement, and for now doing very well, almost completing the encirclement. But this is before the Kozan forces will go back and manage to kick the Turkish Union forces out and let their capital breathe another day. But the Turkish Union will keep advancing into this part, finally meeting the border with Teria, which will supply them and help them a lot in this war, hoping to fully overthrow the dictatorial government of this nation, and after a short while maybe, again as I said, overthrow this nation and make it part of the Turkish Union and install democracy in this nation under the supremacy of the Turkish Union, which is starting to become strong, and now they are showing off their power by invading Koza, which has little to no success in repelling their attacks. Now Koza's pushbacks will be pushed out, and we will have the Kozan capital falling to the Turkish Union, and this is gonna cripple the nation. Their army will turn against them, and with this we are basically gonna have Koza completely collapsing, and the Turkish Union forces will move across the last remaining parts of the nation, and Koza will succeed to the Turkish Union. And in the peace treaty we see that Koza has been fully annexed by the Turkish Union, and now there is one less dictatorship in the world. With part 1 out of the plan, now we will go to part 2, and this is here in Nigeria. In the last episode we saw that the Pokian Union formed between the two nations that were down here, and here they want to go back to Makia, their original owner and a current dictatorship, and take back their old homes and unite this region under a democrat government. First we are gonna have the forces of the Pokian Union moving across these bordering regions of Makia, quickly moving across and recapturing their old homes, doing very well, and it seems like here they are gonna retake back their old homes. Now Merodria will have something to say about this, and what they will do is that they will supply Makia, hoping to protect this dictatorial government. Turning on major cities, we see that Makia has little to no major cities, they only have 4, one of them being their capital, and we will have the Pokian Union quickly moving across, approaching the first major city, which they will manage to encircle, leading to a very brutal fight between the supporters of the Pokian Union, which is countries like Teria or the new democratic Aldicta, and the supporters of Makia, being none other than Merodria. And in the results of this battle we will have the Pokian Union winning, and they will proceed to move further through Makia, quickly threatening their capital city, but not only the capital city but the entire existence of this nation and its dictatorial government, as it seems that the world is sick of dictatorship and totalitarianism. More of Makia will be captured after this middle region basically has little to no major cities in it, due to once again the totalitarianism and dictatorial government of Makia not being good enough and caring about its people, and we'll have this nation almost falling to the capital. The second major city will be threatened in here. We'll have the forces arriving and they will fight here in this major city. The fighting in this major city will last for about a week, but eventually it will somehow end up in a Makian victory, which will manage to push back a lot of the Pokian Union forces, and being an interestingly bad defeat for them, which really shows that Merodria is putting a lot of effort into this war. But the Pokian Union forces will regroup and they will send forces in here, damaging a lot of the supply lines by the Makians and enclosing their capital, and the dictator and the king doesn't manage to run on time and the capital gets encircled, where here will be his last battle. And this battle will be a very bad one for Makia, as the Pokian Union forces will do very well and manage to take the entire capital, but the king is nowhere to be found. He had fled somewhere. The fighting will continue with the Pokian Union forces regrouping in here, ready to retake the second major city of Makia, and they do just that by enclosing it, and this time they'll take all this territory in here to the east of the nation, and they will enclosure the second major city, and this time this will go a lot better in a Pokian Union victory. They'll push their targets in here almost to the coast of Makia, where a lot of them will go on boats hoping to disembark for this island. And this is exactly what happens, and this is when the Pokian Union takes all of the Machian mainland, and all of the Machian forces had fled to this little island in here. Here there's gonna be one of the most brutal naval battles of these times, but eventually the forces will get captured by the Pokian Union, executed, and then the Pokian Union will make a landing on the island and they are gone. The forces no longer exist. So as you can see in this peace treaty, the Pokian Union has achieved its goal and it has fully annexed Machia, which is now back under its original rulers, and now the union is once again fulfilled. The nations have been reunified, but this time under a democratic order, one that's ready to rebuild the former Machian Empire, which expanded back in episode 3, but now it's back to reform and it's back under a democratic order, one that cares about its people. And they will immediately put their power to work and they will annex all these lands of their former empire, of the former Machian Empire, and now they control over all these lands, making them very strong and now very influential, maybe becoming one of the new powers of Africa. Now Merodria will be very upset by this, as they lost one ally both in Machia and in the Turkish Union with Koza, so they will be looking for new allies, maybe even stronger allies, and they will be in luck, as Zimov Zelens the 8th will go to Rome and have a meeting with their leader here in the city of Rome. This meeting will be held under closed doors between Zimov Zelens the 8th and the leader of the Romani Empire, more exactly the king of the Romani Empire, and they are talking about maybe turning the Romani Empire into a dictatorship and maybe turning even Galicia under a dictatorial government, as they are basically the puppet of the Romani Empire. This meeting will go very well, and maybe even talking about a potential alliance, one that could rule the world. One that couldn't only exterminate the Triangle Alliance and Dirlandia, but one that could exterminate Teria and Aldicta. And the next day, when the meeting already ended, the leader of the Romani Empire will announce his nation as a dictatorship. Not only his nation as a dictatorship, but he will go to Galicia, which became his puppet, and he will also announce this nation as a dictatorship, and now the world is starting to fear. After the defeat of Machia, there was only Merodria left, but all of a sudden, now there's also the Romani Empire and Galicia. So now it's back to 3 countries, and not only 3 countries, but 3 way more powerful nations, as the Romani Empire is now the 3rd strongest nation and Galicia, as its puppet, is still fairly strong. Now Algeli will be so scared that they will decide to claim some lands among these regions and moving deeper into the continent, claiming all these areas, and now they are way bigger, but also this kind of hurt their economy, so I'm sure no one will ever profit off of their problems. Remember how in the last episode we had this gold rush nation forming? Well, this was as a checkpoint for explorers, and now it will fulfill its purpose, as now a lot of explorers will come here, basically having a mass migration to the east into Siberia. These regions are very cold, but it's basically a mass exploration group, basically kind of like a migrant group. It's kind of like an early version of the Oregon Trail, and it's going super well, and this group of people will have a lot of success exploring through these regions, and they are mapping it all out. And well, what can I say? People in this timeline like exploring. It's again something super common to be an explorer, and they will reach way further than just this. We'll also have some explorers from Teria in here going through these regions that are pretty hot, but they will find this lake which will help them a lot, and they will use this as a water supply, Also the northern people in Russia, they'll also use this lake as again kind of a checkpoint, and they'll explore more throughout this. Even the Indian will carry their own explorations, and also they will map out a lot of these lands, which will follow by them exploring this region in Bangladesh, super valuable region, and up into here. But around here their explorations will stop because again they are quite at the beginning and they are not as powerful as these other nations, but they have explored quite a lot. As for the final parts of the human explorations, they will explore through these regions, finding even these islands in here, which is super impressive, and take a lot of these lands, almost meeting up with the Baikal Lake but not quite yet. And they'll explore even more land throughout here, having a huge sweep of unexplored land, which they will manage to succeed in, and almost find the Himalayan mountains, and they will stop exactly right here. And with all this new explored land, we will welcome in some new nations to form. These are all the new nations. We have a huge North Siberian nation in here in red. Now we're gonna have one gray nation here around this lake. Now we are gonna have this Aral nation lake. We are gonna have this Madagascar nation, and then we are gonna have this goldish Mozambique nation. While that was happening, we are gonna have these two Indian nations putting some new claims and claiming, well, some new land in here. But the problem is that this Peach nation has taken a little too much land, and this is gonna lead to a breakaway. And more exactly, we are gonna have this brownish breakaway out of them. Well, breaking away out of them and claiming about these lands. And now allow me to make the borders nice and pretty. This is the new Indian country, and after they just got their independence, they will go back to do what their old government forced them to do, and this is claim more land for their nation, because, you know, why wouldn't they? Like, yeah, just take more land, go ahead, take more land. I'm sure you wouldn't collapse in like the next episode or something, I'm very sure of this. Anyway, let's jump to Merodria, let's see what they are doing. Oh yeah, average Merodria moment. So it turns out that Merodria is invading Algeli, and they are absolutely cooking them, as Algeli recently used a lot of their money to claim this land. And even though they aren't in some sort of economic crisis or money shortage at all, in fact they are a very wealthy country and still are, but they have used a little too much, and now they don't have enough for defenses, as now Merodria will crash straight up to the north and take their capital in Tunis. And then we are gonna see something very interesting reported by some Algeli spies. Yeah, they are the first nation to have spies, and it turns out that in the Merodrian army there seem to be some people of Romani descent. They will present this information to the king, and he is absolutely furious. He's about 90% sure that the Romani Empire is helping Merodria in this conflict, and let's say that maybe that's exactly what's happening, and maybe Merodria might have a new ally. But for now, Algeli will get no help from anybody, as the only really nations that could help them is either Andalusia or Tanish, both nations in the Triangle Alliance. And for how much they would want to help and crush the Romani Empire and Merodria, they just can't win this. Not Merodria, but like the Romani Empire has completely humiliated these nations in the War of 1 AD, and they do not want a repeat of this, even though it's 200 years later, almost 300. And as for nations like Teria, they are simply too scared to fight a nation like Merodria, again the strongest nation in the world. Even though Teria is the second strongest, still they are overpowered by Merodria, so they have no choice but to stay out of this war. And because of this, Algeli will get crushed, and after a short while the last major cities will fall, And then we'll have Algeri basically coming and saying, yes, we surrender to Merodria. In this massive peace treaty, we see that Merodria has basically doubled its size and has taken the entirety of Algeri, and now it's basically enclosuring half of the Mediterranean. Very familiar to a certain empire. Now Merodria is huge, and with their newfound land, size and power, they all decide to do kind of their own claims on the African continent. And this means for Merodria to take this, and this, and now Merodria is getting bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger, and more unstoppable, and it's now stretching here from the Ethiopian regions where it all started, up here into Egypt, into Asia, to Israel, to Libya, and now here into the west of Africa, into the northwest of Africa, into Morocco and Algeria. Their empire has grown a lot and it's way stronger than ever, and let's say there are some countries like Teria and Al-Dikta who are very against this nation and want to take it down. Now we are gonna go to Derlandia because something very interesting is about to happen, and it's gonna happen to the Naval Department, which is handling the British Isles here in Scotland. And more exactly, it's someone's birthday. There's one of the naval commander's birthday, they are celebrating, but the people there had a little too much to drink, and because of this they got drunk, and they decided that the best thing they could do is to go on their boats and go on the sea. They do exactly this, and now something interesting is gonna happen because the wind is gonna blow them away. They will go here from the tip of Scotland, around here, through these parts where already Derlandia has a lot of naval supremacy, and it's here where the wind fully blows them out away, and it is around this region that they finally wake up from their alcohol. But when they wake up, they are in the middle of the sea. Derlandia hasn't explored these parts of the sea and they want to go back, but what they don't know is that the wind has blown them away. So instead of going back, they will go even further from their homes, quickly approaching what is in real life known as Iceland. Another wind current will blow them out and they will manage to crash here into Iceland, destroying their two boats that they went with, and now they are gonna be stuck on Iceland. The group of about 70 people will explore these parts of Iceland. Now they are stuck, their boats are cooked, they have been destroyed, and now they are stuck here in Iceland. They will quickly move across the island, exploring it and taking all the resources to survive. But one thing is clear, they do not know how to build boats and they do not know where is the way back home. So they will decide that the best thing they could do is just to remain here and explore these parts around here, and after about a year or so, the entire island of Iceland will get explored, and from here they will settle down. They will be settling down in here with their capital back where they crashed, where they formed a pretty impressive settlement. And in here on the boat crash there are also a pretty big amount of women. There's a lot of women in the Derlandian navy, so they will manage to reproduce and set their own civilization here in the very green but at the very same time cold Iceland. Now the Derlandian government will ask, wait, what happened to my explorers? And they will send a ship there, and they won't manage to get that close to Iceland, but from what it seems is that they found this place, this island, which seems to be habited by people, but after this they went back and told the king this, and basically told him, yeah, this is what we saw, but we weren't very sure because we needed to go back home. But the Derlandian government will keep this in their mind for now. Going back into Africa, here in Merodria, we'll have their neighbors Teria and Al-Dikta both having enough. they had enough with Merodria's expansionism and they will decide to do something. That something is the signing of a coalition. This coalition will be signed between Teria and Aldicta. Aldicta and Teria have signed a coalition against Merodria, but this coalition won't start immediately and Teria will go to Aldicta and tell them, hey, we are gonna invade Merodria. But the thing is that we will not invade Merodria now, we will invade it in a month. So prepare your armies, put them on the border, and in a month we will finally sign the coalition against Merodria and end them once and for all. Now Merodria will go in and use some of the Algerian spies they have captured during the war, and they will send them to Teria and to Aldicta, and they will show these very disturbing files to the Merodrian dictator. They will present the files they have gathered from Teria and from Aldicta, telling them that hey, in a month they are gonna sign this coalition against us, hoping that they will end our empire once and for all. And the Merodrian dictator is super angry at this news his spies gave him, and he will immediately go to the king of the Romani Empire. He will also present him the files, and after this also the Romani Empire king or dictator, however you wanna call him, he carries both of the titles, and he is also super angry, so they will decide to do something. And this something is the signing of their own alliance, and this is the formation of the Star Alliance between Merodria and the Romani Empire. These two powerful nations, Merodria and the Romani Empire, have signed an alliance together to counter this coalition from Teria and from Aldicta against Merodria, and now the strongest country in the world is allied with the third strongest, and they are ready for this coalition. But now they will make their alliance public to the world, and Teria, the Terian leader, will go back to Aldicta and he will tell him, well, our plan failed. So we will have something very interesting happening, and this is the fact that this coalition will be ditched. Teria and Aldicta have realized that no, simply now with the Romani Empire in the game, they cannot sign this coalition and they cannot have this coalition against Merodria. Merodria before was a very strong country, and basically only Teria and Aldicta could have barely taken it out. But now when you also add the Romani Empire, which is in here, they are simply overwhelmed, and with this they will decide to ditch their coalition and announce that they will no longer be having it. And now not only does Teria and Aldicta no longer have their coalition against Merodria, but now Merodria has an alliance with their biggest ally, and this is the Romani Empire. Now they hold each other's backs and they will protect each other till the very last moment. After the ditching of this coalition, we will have Galicia being recruited into the Star Alliance, basically being the Romani's empire puppet state. And now Teria and Aldicta are even more screwed. Not only they lost their coalition, but now there is a very strong alliance against them, which contains Merodria, the Romani Empire, and even the tiny little Galicia, which is ready to fight. The first event of this video will be between Teria and the Indian nations, and this one is a pretty predictable event. We are gonna have Teria explore these lands here in the Indian Pakistani regions. Again, mass exploration has basically begun. They won't go too far into this region as the Himalayan mountains are there and they are challenging the explorers, but also we are gonna see the Indian explorers, well, explore in these regions, and then they meet the Terians. They will be very surprised by each other. I mean, neither the Indians knew about the outside world and the outside world didn't know about the Indians, so it's gonna be a surprise for both of these groups. which at first clash between each other, and understandably so Teria wins, I mean second strongest country in the world. But after the king of Teria gets notified about this new discovery, this new group of people, he will immediately send supplies to them and help them, well, develop, because they are very underdeveloped. They are basically in their beginning stages, how civilization began here in Aldicta. Teria will go and supply Persdia, and this is gonna help this nation a lot, and they are gonna develop a lot, and they will even get a capital as basically all the other nations. Persdia's capital will be right here on the coast of India, where it's the biggest population center in there. And now they have a capital just like all the other nations, and they are starting to assimilate with the help of Teria. Now Merodria will have something to say about this, and they are not very happy with the fact that Teria is now getting new allies, because they wish to get influence in this area, but Merodria's limited coastal access here in the Gulf of Aden will not allow them to do this. The meeting of these two nations will be very beneficial for both of the groups, as now mass exploration will take place here in India, almost meeting up with the Himalayan mountains, but they will hesitate going in there for now compared to the Alp mountains, which they had no problem exploring through. Now of course the Himalayan mountains are way bigger than the Alps, so for now they will hesitate to go in that region, but for now they will explore here into Southeast Asia, where yeah, they are the jungles of Vietnam and all that, but here it's Myanmar, it's a tad bit better, so they will have no problem going down the Malaysian peninsula, the Malacca peninsula, and explore all this land. Now Teria is becoming one of the top explorer countries, as now working with the Indian nations, they will explore here into Southeast Asia, going through Vietnam, but they will be stopped right around here because of the jungles of Vietnam, which are a little too much for this point in time. What's happening to Sabisha? Oh, they had a schism. Yeah, so Sabisha separated into two nations. More exactly, this Lime nation broke out of them, and yeah, in the last episode they lost this nation, and now they are losing this Lime country. But the mass exploration continues, and it continues very well, as now basically the entire world has come together exploring these regions, meeting up with the Baikal Lake, which will be a super great water source, and it will for sure help out a lot of the explorer groups in the area. Afro-Eurasia is almost fully discovered, as now a lot of these groups will explore in the east, meeting up with the Chinese, Korean areas, and they have almost reached the end of Siberia, which is a very great achievement for these civilizations and for these early civilizations, because I'd now say that we are in about 300 AD, so this is for sure a great achievement, and now they will reach with the Pacific Ocean in here in this Siberian part. A little while later we will have the explorer groups managing to explore all these Siberian lands, and this is one of the greatest exploring achievements that the world have achieved so far. Basically now there's only this East Asian part, and then Oceania, that's not Oceania, but in Indonesia and Philippines, that's still part of the old world. Now we'll have explorations happening here in the Manchurian area in China, and we'll have the discovery of the Sakhalin Island in what's real life Russia, and they'll go through here, but here they will finally stop. While here in Japan we'll have them do some island hopping, and they will end up exploring the entire Kurili island chain, and they are now about to discover Japan, but not for now, because I mean they have explored a lot of land, to say the least. And to be honest, for sure there's gonna be a lot of nations forming here in the last unexplored areas. But you wanna know where else there will be new nations? Well, in this whole pocket of explored land, so let's see our new nations. This is the map with all the new nations, and I have given these Indian nations capitals because they are now civilized enough. But we are gonna review the new countries. We are gonna have this Malaccan nation with their capital right there, this Pakistani nation, this purple nation in Central Asia. We have this green Caspian Black Sea nation, a Baikal nation, followed by this yellowish another Siberian nation. Then we have this North Russian nation, followed by a Finnish nation, and then a Swedish Norwegian nation. Also, I'd like to mention that I brightened a little the color of this gold Russian nation and of their Landia because they were a little bland, so I decided to brighten their color so it's a little more, well, bright and vibrant. And with these new countries we are also gonna have some expansions happening. These are now all the countries with their expanded borders. First we have Persia having a bit more land in here. Teria got a tad bit of land here in Persia and on the Caspian coast. The Aral nations in here have taken some land. This land here in Russia is now split between the Russian nations and the new Caspian nation. And that's about it, so now we can go and do some other stuff. Now we are gonna go to a layer that I made a while ago but I never showed you all because it wasn't the case, but it's the religion layer, and ignore the fact that it's outdated. But we need to focus here on Merodria. This is their religion map, the blue one being of course the main branch, and here are all the other branches of religion that Merodria has. But what is gonna happen is that some of these minorities will start to shrink. And yes, it happened in many Wicsos and now it's happening in mine, and that is ethnic cleansing by the Merodrians against these light blue religion groups. They will go in up north and cleanse all these people, and they are committing some pretty horrible atrocities due to their dictatorial government, which came in power in the last episode under Zimov Zelens the 8th. And here it's no different because they will go on like this, and almost this entire light blue branch is almost gone. But something is gonna happen in this Kadoshian group, and this is the fact that people in here of course don't wanna be killed, so they will decide to take action, and take action they will do. And it is here that we'll go on the country names layer, and we'll add a name in here. Now we will have a name appearing here, which is quite interesting because it's inside of Merodria, but here in the Kadoshian regions we'll have the appearance of Al-Dimokra. Now what is Al-Dimokra, you might ask? Well, it's a terroristic organization against Merodria. Merodria, after cleansing a lot of their people, these guys have decided to turn rebellious, and they have created this terroristic organization that will do, well, exactly what they are supposed to do, and cause some terroristic attacks on Merodria, hoping to weaken their grip over their empire and collapse it as a whole. Now this organization will be very successful and they will manage to kill a lot of Merodrians, and there are gonna be some rumors that will be given all the way here in the capital to the king of Merodria, being Zimov Zelens the 10th, and these are that this new terroristic organization is planning to kill him and his entire bloodline and collapse the Merodrian empire. He will see this as something unforgivable, so he will send his armies to end this terroristic organization. And the Merodrian army will listen to the king's command, and they all go into the Kadoshian regions and start to also cleanse these people which are part of Al-Dimokra. Al-Dimokra is formed of about 5,000 people, and they all here managed to cleanse about 4,000 of them, and they have purified, or that's how Zimov Zalens the 10th calls this. They have purified their nation, but in reality they have just killed a lot of people. Well, it turns out that the rest of 1,000 Al-Dimokrans have actually fled to Teria. And this is very shocking to Merodria, because Teria just let terrorists in their nation, and they have found out that these terrorists aren't just terrorists, they are terrorists against Merodria and want to take down their empire, and this is gonna be too much for the Merodrian king Zimov Zalens X. After he saw Teria accepting refugees from Al-Dimokra, people who were supposed and tried to kill him now have fled to Teria, Merodria's biggest enemy, and now they will take action. And the Merodrian armies will march into Teria, actually invading this nation. Not invading it, but they march their armies through the nation, hoping to find the last 1,000 remaining Al-Dimokrans, and they will exactly do this. They will march straight into Teria, search every house, and for every Al-Dimokran they find, they immediately kill them on the spot. And now the Terian army and population is understandably so very scared. Literally Merodria is raiding their nation. But now these news are gonna arrive to the king of Teria, King Alan V. Now he hears about the fact that Merodria is literally raiding Teria and searching for these people, and be sure of the fact that Merodria has also killed some innocent Terians. And when King Alan V hears this, he will be absolutely furious, so he will go up north and demand his armies to keep their position and not allow Merodria to advance further. But guess what? Merodria does not care. They still march here, but the king basically tells his armies to back down and not start a war with Merodria. Again, Merodria, a way stronger nation, and also in the last episode they got some new allies here in the Mediterranean. So the best they could do is just to wait and allow Merodria to commit their atrocities. It's unfortunate, but this is what they are gonna do. And again, basically they raid the entire region, they search every house, and for every Al-Dimokran they find, they kill them on the spot, hoping to not leave one person behind. And in this raid of 1,000 people, already half of them have died. Now there's 500 Al-Dimokrans remaining, but it's gonna be around here that the Merodrians decide to back down and basically tell the king, yeah, this is not worth to continue, it's not worth to keep advancing into Teria, because if we advance further than like these Kadoshian lands, for sure Teria isn't gonna allow us to do that, and they will start a war with us. And also probably the Al-Dimokrans are way further. They are probably, debatably, they are maybe not even in Teria anymore. They might have even fled into the Clarion Union or other nations bordering Teria. Zimov Zalens X will listen to what his military generals recommend him, so he will recall a lot of their armies here from Teria, and let's just say Teria will never forget this, and Teria is traumatized. But now the Terian armies are actually pushing the Merodrians out. They are actively basically telling them to go and rushing them back into Merodria. And this is gonna anger King Zimov Zalens X, which is gonna come by himself here into the Kadoshian regions, and we are gonna have something super interesting happening around in here with Teria's king, King Alan V. Merodria sent their armies here into Teria and raided the nation in hope to find the Aldemocran terrorists, and they have managed to find many of them. They have taken many of them, but now they are gonna back down and recall their armies back to Merodria after they have basically achieved all they wanted, and the rest of the Aldemocrans, it's not really worth to go for them and search for them. But while recalling their armies, the Terian soldiers not only rushed the Merodrian soldiers and pushed them back here to their nation, but this also led to some casualties and some Terian soldiers attacking Merodrian soldiers. This made Zimov Zalens X very mad, and King Alan V will also present himself here, right in this tiny portion of their border. This is where the biggest border skirmish happens, with about a dozen casualties, 10 of them being Merodrian and 2 of them being Terian. And both of these nations' kings are actually so furious at each other that they are actually gonna clash. They will clash right here, the king of Merodria, Zimov Zalens VIII, with Teria's king, King Alan V. They will have a horseback duel, they will fight, and both will manage to hurt each other pretty badly. Zimov Zalens X though will manage to give King Alan V a pretty good shot and takes his helmet off. But also King Alan V will catch a very good shot on Zimov Zalens X, and he will manage to slash the palm of his left hand off, and this injures Zimov Zalens X a lot. I mean, understandably so. The king of Teria literally cut the palm of his left hand off, and he's gonna freak out, and basically he will go in and go back to his nation and recall all his armies. Now the Merodrian forces will back down and be recalled back to Merodria, also being pushed by the Terian soldiers. Now Zimov Zalens X is heavily injured. He will be rushed back to the capital, where he manages to get treated as best as these nations can in these early times, but he will manage to survive, but heavily injured, and he is missing the palm of his left hand that got cut by the sword slash from King Alan V during the duel. So this is gonna come in as a pretty big blow for Merodria and a super big win for Teria. And when King Alan V arrives back at the capital, also quick mention, King Alan V has little to no injuries from the battle, only a few scratches, but when he arrives back at the capital, all the Terian citizens from the capital cheer him up as he comes back and goes back into his palace, as he just won a super big duel against one of the most infamous leaders of one of the most infamous families in the world, and has just defeated the leader of the strongest nation in the world in a duel. He has basically disabled him of one of his palms, and now he's not even that injured at all, again just a few scratches, and this is gonna come in as a very big win for Teria and shows the world that maybe Merodria isn't as strong as it seems, and maybe Teria still holds in that power that it used to have when it was the strongest nation in the world, and maybe one day they might be able to get their final revenge on Merodria. But this is gonna remain as a tragic day in Teria and Merodria. In Merodria because of the injury that the Merodrian king Zimov Zalens X got, but also for Teria as many people were killed and their nation literally just got raided by the strongest nation in the world. And for sure Teria will never forget this. Jumping over to the Icelandic nation, we'll have them colonize the rest of their island, understandably so, and now we are finally gonna have another naval expedition by the Landia happening. They will send but a huge number of boats to Iceland to investigate that area that was told the king about, and they will be indeed found here chilling in Iceland, and they are told to come back to Derlandia, but of course these are the descendants of the original people that were stuck here on Iceland, so they already settled here. They don't want to come back to Derlandia, and Derlandia is gonna be okay with this at the end of the day. So yeah, now this region is known by the entire world, and these guys are gonna be let here to chill on Iceland. Now we are gonna have these northern Russian nations that we've had seen form at the beginning of this video. We'll now have them expand here into the Finnish regions around here, and they will be taking all this land, and now they just, well, got more land, and now they are also bordering these other Russian nations and the St. Petersburg nation and almost the Finnish nation. Jumping to the Finnish nation that I just talked about, we also have them do some expansion. And more exactly, they will be claiming some land here into the Finnish Kolan Peninsula regions and take all this land, and now the North Russian nation has one more neighbor. And something about all these Russian nations, they are all super friendly with each other. They are exploring together, they are mapping the world out together, and they are very friendly, trading. Basically, this part of the world is pretty friendly with each other, which isn't a common theme in this world, especially considering what just happened between Teria and Merodria. First of all, I want for us to go here to Derlandia, because they have been recently expanding in the last couple of episodes. First of all, they split the British Isles with Hibernia, and also they took here Scandinavia, but we saw the new nation of Namibium form around here in Scandinavia, which is blocking Derlandia from continuing their expansion up here in the north. So we'll have Derlandia prepare their armies and invade Namibium. I'm gonna be turning on provinces for this war because they are gonna be pretty important, but first we are gonna have the Derlandian troops hop the border here into Namibium and start to take some territories here across this first province in here, having a lot of success and almost capturing the said province. But the harsher climates of North Scandinavia here into Namibium, and also the fact that Namibium is used to these climates and fighting in them, this will allow for them to fight back in around here. But also we are gonna have Derlandia hop into this province and take almost the entirety of the province, but they get stopped around here towards the border. Then Namibium also manages to push Derlandia back in here and manages to take these territories, and even does a pretty successful landing in here. And they will even make a landing in here into this part of Derlandia, surprising the Derlandian troops, and manage to encircle them here from behind, and this is gonna hurt Derlandia a lot, as now Derlandia will lose all of their claims here into this province, and this will basically end up for Derlandia losing almost their entire claims, only keeping this little part. Now we are gonna have Namibium start to push into Derlandia into these parts and also encircle these troops. Also we'll have the final Derlandian troops being pushed out. From here they will push a little more, take some more territory, and here, because Derlandia is starting to lose, they will agree to peace with Namibium and will recognize that this invasion has flopped and failed terribly. Over in the peace treaty between Derlandia and Namibium, we'll have Namibium take this province from Derlandia, expanding their nation, and now they got a pretty valuable piece out of Derlandia. Also, if we go over to the provinces layer, we can see the province that they got, it's this one, and now they got a pretty big province out of Derlandia. They became bigger and they became stronger and now a lot more populated, and now to prevent future invasions, they'll go over here to the Russian nations, and especially to Ivoria, being the purple Russian nation, and they will manage to get some supplies and some help from these nations, which will bring us to the next event. And this is first of all the discovery of the rest of Europe, as we are gonna have the Svalbard Islands being discovered, and now finally the entirety of Europe is explored, every single inch of it, and now we are gonna have the partition of this land. Part of the agreement is that Namibium takes all these territories that they met up with Rhodesia, and second part of the plan is the fact that Rhodesia takes everything else. Also the Svalbard Islands, these are gonna be claimed by Namibium, even though it's just a claim. They are not actually taking that land and actually putting people there to live, like building cities and all that, as this is a little too cold for people to populate, but it's gonna be claimed by Namibium and it's gonna basically be taken by them. Now I'd like to mention the fact that around this time we are in about 430-ish AD, and by this point in real life there were a lot of plagues, and that's exactly what will happen now in Wicso episode 8 around 430-ish AD, as I said. The plague will begin right here into Andalusia and will quickly spread to their capital, and overall will encompass the entirety of the nation of Andalusia. Now Andalusia will kind of try to report this to the entire world, saying help, we are having a plague, this is not good, this shouldn't be happening. But the world will not be that scared so far. And I want to mention, yes, there were plagues, but none like this bad, like to this level. And it's about maybe like half the deadliness of the bubonic plague. Now this plague is about only like half as deadly as the bubonic plague, but this is like 900 years before the real life bubonic plague was, so it will come in as basically the same amount of deadliness. And this plague will also continue to expand here into Galicia, taking this nation and encompassing it in the plague. Now people in both of these nations are starting to die, and now the Romanian Empire is freaked out, like what is happening, why is such a big plague happening, and they will be starting to freak even more when this plague reaches their nation and starts to move through these territories of like France, and starts to move across here around the Netherlandian border. But this border is very militarized and basically there's no people going back and forth between the nations. I think this isn't like really the case between any countries of these times. Yeah, these countries are for sure racist between each other, but when it comes to like the Romanian Empire and its ally in Galicia and kind of its arch enemy into Andalusia, they will end up getting the plague, which will expand across these Galician parts. But here when it reaches kind of the core of the Romanian Empire, all the way in Rome, this is finally the point where they start to sanitize a lot of their nation and kind of try to make a cure for this, even though yeah, it's the early times, they can't really make a cure for it. But their efforts of stopping the plague are gonna be pretty successful and they are gonna be pretty efficient, and the plague will not expand here in these parts of Rome and into the Balkans. But the same will not be able to be said about Netherlandia. I know I said that like there is little to no people walking across between the two nations. Now I know, yes, I said that there's little to no people going back and forth between the nations, so there wouldn't really have been someone to spread the plague, but still, it's still a plague and it still ends up expanding. There's still people going back and forth between the nations, so it's not too far-fetched to imagine that also this plague could also be spreading from like animals and stuff, so it will also end up reaching Netherlandia, going up here into the Danish peninsula, and it will reach about here in the Scandinavia. But now Namibium will be basically the chad of this entire plague, and they will manage to sanitize their nation very well, and they will block their borders in here with Derlandia that they already kind of had blocked, considering the war that just occurred between the two. And now there will be no cases of the plague in Namibium. Of course there are gonna be, but they are gonna be very sparse and not many people will get the plague there. The same cannot be said about the rest of Derlandia, as the rest of their Scandinavian parts will fall over to the plague, but also now they will reach these kind of Polish parts of Derlandia, and this is where a lot of instability will be met in Derlandia, as you know, people are getting the plague here from the people here more towards the major cities of Derlandia, here with their capital and all that, and now they're spreading the plague here into these more rural parts of Poland. So this is gonna cause a lot of instability between the Derlandian people. Also, the plague will expand throughout the rest of Derlandia's core land and take all of these European lands of Derlandia. And now again, this is gonna cause a lot of instability, and now I wanna turn off a bit the plague layer and I want to go a bit on the religion layer. And as we can see, the religion here in these Polish parts is actually different. First of all, we have kind of this Kaliningradish Prussian religion, which is an off-brand of the purple religion here in Russia. So it's not even like culturally Derlandian, it's more culturally Russian. So this is interesting. And also then there is this kind of off-brand which is kind of like a mix between the Derlandian religion and the Russian religion. So these don't really mix up well, and again when the people here into the more core Derlandian part, here into like the Dutch and German parts, spread the plague here into the Polish parts and start to, well, cause the death of a lot of Polish people in here, they'll be very mad, and this is gonna cause a ripple effect across Derlandia, and this is gonna cause some instability in here. So Derlandia will have to face this and will have to, well, do what Namibium did and start to sanitize their nation and start to counter this plague if they want to remain united together. Now, because of the plague expanding over here in Derlandia, we'll have the plague kind of cross over here into the Roman Empire, and then the Roman Empire will kind of go over to Derlandia and be like, dude, what the fuck? But then the plague will keep expanding over here into the Balkan regions. But it is here that also the Roman Empire will kind of stabilize, kind of like a shield of anti-plague, if you wanna call it like that. Well, they will basically start to heavily sanitize and treat people in these regions so that they ensure that no one here has the plague and no one here dies and could maybe spread the plague further. Also, there will be some cases reported here in Danesia, but it won't go further than here, as also they did the smart thing of shutting down their borders. It would have been awesome if this could also be said about Tanish, but guess what, they are also being cursed by the plague and they will end up basically losing their entire nation. Now, by far the worst nation here to get the plague, it's the Clarion Union, because this nation has been trying to unify the entirety of the Turkish or Anatolian Peninsula, but now during the plague they will have kind of their unification put on hold, as now they can no longer really keep their expansion, as now people are dying here in the nation. One of the most prepared nations for this plague, and this is Teria, as they will manage to counter the plague pretty well, but it still will expand nevertheless. Teria has basically ensured kind of their hygiene and sanitizing over here kind of in their core areas in Africa, over here in Arabia, into Persia and into Caucasia, but not so much here into kind of these Cappadocian regions, as this part will still get hurt by the plague a lot. Over here where Aldimokra used to resign and will take all this, but then the rest will get put on hold by Teria, as again they are one of the most prepared nations for this plague, and they are already making strides to, well, end this plague and kind of find a cure for it. But now also comes a pretty big one. This is Merodria, the strongest nation in the world, and now they'll also suffer the plague. They'll also be very prepared, but not really here in kind of the coastal parts, as they'll do something pretty evil. They will actually expand the plague and they will let it expand over here, kind of into these Lovian lands, so that it actually kills the people over here, so that the plague will continue the Merodrian ethnic cleansing for them. The Romani Empire will kind of go over to Merodria and be like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you letting the plague expand? This plague is killing a lot of people, is killing people of my nation, and now you are letting it expand. Like, what are you doing? Now get off this plague right now. Go and work with Teria maybe and find a cure for it. It's fine, it's not that deep. Which is kinda crazy to hear from a country like the Romani Empire, but at the end of the day it's true. I mean, it's also killing the people of the Romani Empire. So Merodria's leader, Zimov Zalens the 16th, will listen, so he will also try to find a cure for it, kind of having a race with Teria over who can get this cure and who can help the world. Now here the leader of the Romani Empire will be so upset of what Zimov Zalens the 16th did by literally allowing his nation to get the plague, and he will be so upset by this that he will actually decide to show off the power of his nation during a plague, mind you, and decide to declare war on the Farmers Union. Now someone should have told him that invading a nation during the plague is far from the best idea that he could have, but guess what, he's not gonna listen to anybody who tries to tell him that. And this is also kind of a retaliation to what Derlandia did by letting the plague expand in here, and the Romani Empire will manage to take these parts of the Farmers Union, and now we'll take these two provinces out of the Farmers Union, and now they'll be trying to formulate what's a spearhead over here to the Farmeran capital. They'll make a spearhead over here towards the capital, try to encircle it, but when they meet kind of the capital province, this is where they meet a bulk of the Farmeran armies, which are now gonna fight. First of all, the Romani Empire will get repelled away from the capital of the Farmers Union, and the spearhead will be pushed out. Also, the fact that the Romani Empire is the aggressor in this war will kind of give them a bad rep across the world, as not many people like the idea of invading countries during such a time. So the world overall will be siding with the Farmers Union, and also their soldiers are starving and dying because of the plague. So because of this, we'll have the Farmers Union manage to defeat the Romani Empire and kick them out of their nation, just like this, and now the Romani Empire is gonna retreat back and call it a day. The peace treaty between the Romani-Farmeran war ends up in a white peace. No one gets anything from each other. Even though the Romani Empire managed to take a lot of land from the Farmers Union managed to repel their attacks, and then the Romani Empire retreated and accepted its defeat, but without having to actually lose any land, because, well, the Farmers Union didn't conquer any land during the war, so it's just gonna remain as a white peace with no changes whatsoever. But now going over here to Merodria and Teria, now who is gonna be the savior of the world? Who is gonna save the world from this plague, and who is gonna find the cure for it? And we are gonna review this in 3, 2, 1, it's Teria. Now also, yes, the Merodrian Empire was also very close to finding a cure for this plague, but you know, Teria has been working on it for way longer. The Merodria kind of started it recently, so this will lead to Teria managing to find a cure for it, and now they'll manage to kind of rescue these parts from the plague, and the plague will slowly but surely start to fade away. Also, we'll have basically the liberation of the entirety of Teria away from the plague. Now Teria is free from the plague, and now they are no longer in active plague territory. They'll be naughty and not give any of this cure over to the Merodrian Empire, but they will give this cure over to Rontia and the Clarion Union, which has suffered by far the most casualties in this plague, but now they'll manage to save their nation over here. Also, we are gonna have Altia and Aras get rid of the plague, and also they no longer have any strong cases of the plague and are no longer in the active plague territory. Also, Danesia will see something similar happen, as now they will also push back the plague over here with the resources that they received from Teria. Now Merodria has found its cure for this plague. They have found a way weaker cure for this plague, but they have found a cure nevertheless, so they will use this to kind of free up their Kadoshian lands and also start pushing over here where they have kind of their Merodrian majorities that they already ethnically cleansed. But they will start pushing right here and around this, where finally they kind of get stopped as it's a bit too much of pushing away the plague. But also they will share some of this cure over with the Roman Empire, which is gonna help them a lot, and they'll manage to kind of start to free up kind of their Balkan parts in here, over here like this, and they will end up pushing all these parts away from the plague. Just like this, and now they are also gonna be making strides to also recover these parts. They will start to, and by this point the plague has basically taken around 50-ish years of humanity where little to nothing has happened at all. But now the Roman Empire will be successful in re-liberating some of these territories from the plague, going across the Derlandian border and freeing up these territories just like this. But again, this is where it finally stops. Now over here in the countries that started the plague, being Andalusia and Galicia, will have them manage to kind of get their little cure. Andalusia has got it from Teria, so this will help them in a very big amount, and they will be managing to free up all of their nation from the plague, and now they are free once again. Also the same will kind of be with Galicia. They'll take kind of the weaker cure that they took from Merodria, which is not really as good as the one from Teria, but it's still a cure, and also their nation isn't really big, so they don't need to use this cure over like a very big amount of area. But this is where they finally get freed, and now they no longer have to deal with this plague. Now finally Derlandia will get the cure from Teria, and also they will be managing to kind of rescue a lot of these parts here into their Polish lands and cure up all these lands, starting to cure up all their people. And I think I have used the word cure for like 1,000 times, but they remained here with the plague in these populated parts. Also over here in the British Isle we'll have them take a bit of the plague out. Also, in fact, they will fully kick the plague out of the British Isle, and it's about here that Derlandia finally stops pushing the plague as well, as still it's pretty strong and pretty deadly. But now the plague is actually mostly done. Like, it's only a bit here in Derlandia, kind of these French regions of the Romani Empire. There's these Libyan, Tunisian parts of Merodria, and then there's here in the Balkans, which is what we are going to be talking about next, as now the Balkans will have the Farmers Union cure the plague out, again with the help of Teria. Teria basically saved the world with their cure for this plague, and also they will make strides to cure it from Tanish, but here when they get around their capital zone, they get stopped. But now the plague has been going on for about 100 years, and now the world is starting to recover. Population is starting to grow back up, kind of to what it used to be before the plague. A lot of countries have regained their lost people in the plague. Teria now, for example, is fully recovered from the plague. The Merodrian Empire is kinda, it still has their regions in here, but for their core parts they are recovered. Iberia is recovered, Derlandia is recovered in the parts that no longer have the plague, and also the Farmers Union is also very rejuvenated. But most especially it's here in Anatolia that this region has managed to rebuild very well. But now this region of Anatolia has managed to rebuild very well after the plague, and now all these countries have basically regained their power. And this is especially the case with two nations, being the Clarian Union and Rontia, and now the Clarian Union will continue its plan. Well, what is this plan, you might ask? And I'm glad to tell you that this is their plan of uniting the rest of Turkey and Anatolia as a whole, as now they will be uniting over with Rontia, adding them to the union, and they are once again growing as a nation and have just gone up in power once again. And now they are actually starting to get close to their main objective. Now they only have Aras, Altia, and Cypria to go to finally manage to unite the rest of Anatolia and fully fulfill the Clarion Union. But now we'll be talking about the plague for the final part in this video, as now we are in the year 566 AD, and we are gonna see the end of the plague, as now Netherlandia will cure the plague over here in all of their nation. Now Netherlandia is free from the plague. They are the first nation to get away from the plague. Next is the Roman Empire, as now they will also manage to cure all of their land away from the plague, also making them free. Same with Tanish, they will manage to cure all the plague. And finally we'll have the Merovingian Empire also be the last nation to cure the plague in their nation. And now the plague is gone, it has finally ended once again in the year 566 AD. This plague lasted for about 150 years, but now it's gone, so now the world can start to focus on its next step. And for the final event of the video, this is a pretty small one, but we are gonna go over to the capital layer because in the last episode I got a pretty interesting comment, and that's the fact that the capital of Dulmush is actually underwater. And this is because this map is depicting the Aral Lake after it was dried by the Soviets, and of course because in this timeline this never happened, there's no reason for the lake to be like this, and it should be full filled. So we are gonna take their capital, and I'm gonna be moving it. So now I'm gonna take their capital and push it down south into here, and now I think it's good. I think now this is actual dry zone and it's no longer in the lake. So now that that's done, we have corrected a pretty big mistake. For our first event of the video, we'll have to go over here into the Anatolian Peninsula, and this is an event here with the Clarion Union. They will continue their quest of trying to unite the entire Anatolian Peninsula and form a one united Turkish state, and they will do just that by now uniting with the nation of Altia. Altia is this kind of southern Turkish nation, this kind of Anatolian coast nation, and now this nation has joined the Clarion Union and has well combined their power with the nations like Koza, Rontia and all that to form this huge Turkish state. But now we'll go back to the trade route layer, as we are gonna have the continuation of the trade route, understandably so. It's been years since I first updated it. In fact, it's been a few centuries. So we'll have it continue over here into Aldicta, moving across these territories where the original revolutionaries began, and continue to move over here through the territory of Aldicta as they continue to, well, build their trade route and wish now to go over here across this unclaimed patch of land and go all the way to the Poukian Union. They are gonna go along this way towards their capital and eventually get there. They do not do something like this to connect it with the capital of Merodria, as the two nations are hostile to each other. But Aldicta will begin its plan of going over to the Poukian Union, although the plan will be stopped around here. But the Poukian Union will also begin its own kind of mini trade route towards their nation, and they will have it go like this towards their capital and like this towards their former Makian capital. Also something nice will happen, as we'll have the two Saharan nations go over here and connect their capitals with a trade route. Similar enough, we'll have Hibernia kind of build its own mini trade route to their nation over here throughout their entire island of Ireland, and kind of make a sea trade route over here to the Isle of Man, and into their British claim, but do not go into their Landia as they are not really friendly with them. Mind you, they are still neutral, so they are not hostile, but they are just simply neutral. Also, we'll have, interestingly enough, the Roman Empire build its trade route over here to their Landia, which goes to their two capitals, and over here the Roman Empire stops its plans of building trade routes through their literal enemy just because of that reason. In fact, the Roman Empire will now build its own trade route over here into their Balkan land like this, connecting with an even bigger enemy, which is the nation of Tanish, which is quite strange. The Farmers Union though is essentially pretty neutral, so they'll have no issue going over here and building their trade route over here with the Crimean nation. Even though the Roman Empire does not keep building the trade route, Derlandia does, and they will pick up the project from here and move through this territory over here like this. And then from here they reach the nation of Ivoria and reach their capital like this. And from here the two trade routes from the north and the south connect around like this into this part of the Azov Lake. But now jumping over here to Quascaria, we are gonna have them do some slight expansion, not too much, but they'll do a little as they existed for quite a while. And you know, in this age of humanity, nationalism is very predominant in these nations. Nations are filled with nationalism, with imperialism, so it makes sense for nations to expand a lot in these times. And now that we covered this situation in Quascaria with their nationalism and imperialism, which led to them expanding, we are also gonna bring up a very common complaint that people have had with my Wicso, and that's like, why are nations so big? And that's the point. The current age in time is the age of empires. This age is represented by countries being big, by countries expanding, by countries being imperialist. That's essentially the point of this era. But after this age is over, expect to see some countries shrink in size. One thing that has ended though is the mass exploration. If you know, by the last couple of episodes, you saw that there was this huge amount of exploration throughout Asia, countries mass exploring. We had in here the new set of humans pop out in India, and from there with the help of Teria they expanded here in Southeast Asia, and over here with the Europeans basically moving throughout the entire Siberia and into the Mongol regions. But this, yes, it has come to a halt. The exploration has come to a halt, and we'll have to wait a little until we can get back to some more exploration and some new countries in here. First, we're gonna address some issues that come from the people that have explored Asia, and we are gonna go here into Europe, back between Derlandia and Nambium. In the last episode we saw Derlandia and Nambium have a war with each other, and Nambium actually surprisingly won and has taken this one province of Derlandia. But Derlandia is very embarrassed and very upset with this lose, so they will try to defeat them a second time and will once again declare war on Nambium. Turning once again provinces for this war, we are gonna actually start with Nambium, start their invasion over here in Derlandia, as they are used to these climates of Scandinavia and start their advancements into here. But hold on a second, Derlandia isn't playing around, so this time they will be way more prepared for their invasion, so when they will go in, they'll actually manage to cause some pretty serious issues for Nambium, retaking the province that they have taken in the last episode. And after taking this little province of them, they'll move through this one and start to approach their capital province, but they get stopped by the Nambium armies, which are now getting supplied from all of these Russian nations, specifically by their Finnish partner. Derlandia will end up being clapped in here and pushed all the way back. But over here, when Nambium tries to advance further into Derlandia, this is where they meet issues, as now they can barely move in to these Swedish provinces over here. and when it comes over here into these provinces, they are even less lucky. Eventually Derlandia pushes them out over here in their Swedish provinces, while pushing them more over here into these Norwegian provinces like this, and then they start to push them like that. Now they will start to re-liberate some of these areas, but it is here that already the war has been stretching on for quite a while, and none of these nations really want to fight the war anymore, so they'll come to the agreement to stop fighting. Similar enough to the last episode, we see white peace being signed between Nambium and Derlandia. Similar enough to what happened between the Romani Empire and the Farmers Union in the last episode. So there are no map changes in here and no reparations, it's just simply they fought for absolutely nothing. But going back to Quascaria, we'll have their navy expand over here in the territories that they have recently annexed, but while doing so, some of their navy goes rebellious. Not some of their nation, not land, but their navy. So their navy kinda goes rogue and decides to go east. We are gonna have this rogue group of navy from Quascaria go over here from their navy and go to these two islands, take the resources they find, and then they'll continue to expand through this part of the sea. They'll find out that this island exists, and over here they will now go eastern and eastern. They will essentially find nothing. Mind you, they have gotten as many supplies as they could, so they didn't go unprepared, but they will keep going over here to these parts, over this, and the currents blow them away, and some of them, in fact all of them, simply go into here and discover this little pile of land over here in this little real life Indonesian island. As this is the first piece of land they found in like 1,000 kilometers away from where they began, they will kind of move around in here and settle this area. Mind you, they have a very big navy because they literally broke off from a navy, but over here in the distance they will see an island. So after taking and exploring this little island, they will go over here to this northern piece of land that they have found. They think this is India, but it turns out it's not, and it turns out that there is no one in here, there is no people, and this is actually the island of Java, but they don't know that yet. It's only around here that they actually realize that they have discovered a totally new piece of land, and from what they think is just an entirely new continent. I mean, technically it is, as you could consider it a part of Asia, but also you could consider it like its own thing and be part of Oceania. But over here we'll have them discover this little part of Java, but as they are not really land people, they like a lot more to go on the seas with boats. They will only discover this and they will be very slow with exploration. But now we are gonna go over here to Sabrosia, where kind of the first effects of non-nationalism or imperialism will come to bite them, as they are a very northern nation, a very cold nation. So because of this they are quite unstable, and they decide that the best thing they could do is to release these northern islands, as these islands will be unclaimed by them. Now something interesting to note is that these territories do not rebel away from them. They just simply abandon these territories, they simply give up these territories, and they simply go back to no one claims them. And the reason why they did this is just because they are a very northern nation, a very cold nation, and really they couldn't afford to keep these islands, and literally no one was living there anyway, so it was just the best to release back these territories, and that's it. Now the nation of Iosium will do pretty much the same thing, as they decide to release these northern islands, as no one lives here and is just taking the money for absolutely no reason to rule over. So again we'll just have these islands go in and be released. And now we'll also have the same happen with this little island which breaks away from its host nation, again for the same reason. It was just taking simply too much money to rule over, and it was not worth it. And now going over here into Africa, we'll also have Solevia decide to release over some of their kind of inner African lands which not many people live in. On the province layer, we'll see that these three provinces are the ones they will release. And now we are gonna jump on the actual normal map, and we will see that they released all this territory. Again, not really release, but simply just unclaim it, as it was just taking them a bit too much money to govern over, and it wasn't really worth it. So they decided that the best thing they could do is just to release this territory and remain over with the territories that are actually populated and the ones that are actually worth to govern over. So that will do it for the nations that will release territory. Now we are gonna go and do something pretty interesting. Now going back to the religion layer, we haven't visited this layer in quite a while, and that's mostly because not much has happened, but it's time for stuff to happen here with Merodria, which will do some pretty unfortunate stuff to these people. And because of the plague that was around these parts of Merodria in the last episode, and Merodria accelerating their ethnic cleansing, this entire subdivision of the blue religion group will get ethnically cleansed by Merodria. So unfortunately, the religion of the former nation of Lovia has been eradicated, but now we are gonna see something very cruel happening. And that's the fact that we are gonna have the first cases of ethnic cleansing on the Algerian religion taking place in here into kind of their border parts over here into these territories. But over here, now we are gonna be discussing what will happen between Merodria and this religion group. And this thing is the fact that the people of the Algerian religion are way more united than the people of the Lovian religion. They are way more nationalistic. They are way more determined to keep their religion and to keep themselves alive. So they will stand up to Merodria and kind of the little government departments that kind of govern over this area will come and say, hey, if you keep ethnically cleansing us, we'll rebel away from you and take your entire empire down. And actually the current leader of Merodria, Zim of Zealands the 27th, will actually be quite scared of this threat, so he'll actually stop his ethnic cleansing, and kinda the mayor of this department in Algeria will be praised by this religion group, because he's essentially the sole reason why Merodria isn't killing everybody in here now. And it is here back onto the world map, the political map. We are gonna jump back to the Clarion Union, which has already expanded in this episode by uniting with Altia, and it is here that they will be uniting with Aras as well. Now, the Clarion Union and Aras are very similar nations, but even more Altia with Aras are very similar. So when Altia joined the Clarion Union, that also led to a huge feeling in Aras of maybe we should also join the Clarion Union. And this is exactly what will happen, as actually after a surprising amount of years, it has almost been 100 years since the beginning of this episode. Mind you, the pace is still very quick in this series, but we are gonna have Aras also join the Clarion Union, just like this. And now the Clarion Union has only one last final nation to incorporate, and this is Cypria. And for the final event of this video, we'll have to talk about something very interesting happening in Merodria, and we'll have a timeline of events. January 6th, year 700 AD, Zim of Zealands the 28th is born. The person who is supposed to be the next leader of Merodria has just been born. March 14th, 722 AD, Zim of Zealands the 28th becomes leader of Merodria after the king Zim of Zealands the 27th just died. July 28th, 724 AD. Zim of Zealands the 28th has his first child, but The child ends up being born with disabilities, so he ends up being ditched. April 30th, 726 AD, his second child is born, but he also ends up being born with disabilities, so he also gets ditched. June 1st, 728 AD, Zim of Valens the 29th is born. So this is Zim of Valens the 28th, third child, and this one finally is not born with disabilities, so he gets the title of Zim of Valens the 29th, and he is gonna become the next ruler after Zim of Valens the 28th. February 28, 730 AD, Zim of Valens the 30th is born, the first child of Zim of Valens the 28th, and he is also gonna become leader of Merodria after Zim of Valens the 29th. Now we are gonna do a very big jump. February 748 AD, news starts to spread throughout the Merodrian Empire that Zim of Valens the 29th, the child of Zim of Valens the 28th, who is supposed to be the next ruler of Merodria, he is gonna get married soon. Soon to be in March. In March, Zim of Valens the 29th will get married, he'll get a wife, and he'll also end up having his descendants to carry on the Merodrian bloodline. And from here, the Merodrian royal family bloodline will continue to thrive from here, and we'll talk about in the next episode how the marriage will play out. Though before anything happens, we'll have the Calerian Union finally achieving its great goal of uniting all of Anatolia and all of Turkey, and now the Calerian Union is fully completed and the pact has been fulfilled. But now we need to go back to something I have said in the previous episode, and this is your daily reminder to go watch the previous videos if you haven't already, as you are getting spoiled. But this event is none other than the marriage of Zim of Valens the 29th. The next supposed leader of Merodria is about to get married, and he's gonna get married right around here in the Nile. His marriage takes place over here into this Merodrian major city in the Nile Delta, and it takes place in a pretty big cathedral over here into this major city. And everything is going well, you know, people are enjoying this marriage, everything is going well, people are dancing, people are singing. It seems like nothing is gonna go wrong. But guess what? Something is gonna go very wrong. And it is at around 2:21 p.m. when 91 evil-minded men come over here into this city to the wedding of Zim of Valens the 29th. When everyone is about to go into the church, these men come and barricade the church and light it all on fire, killing everyone that was inside the church. But luckily there was one very important person that escaped. That person is none other than Zim of Valens the 28th, the current emperor of Merodria. He was also meant to go into the church, but he stayed outside because he wanted to really tell something to his wife, what no one will ever find out. But he stayed outside and he managed to escape this assassination, but his son Zim of Valens the 29th didn't. Yep, he dies at his own marriage alongside his wife. But Zim of Valens the 28th will be very freaked out by this assassination attempt, and he will go on horseback right back to the Merodrian capital and basically tell all their armies and everyone what had happened and what terrible assassination had just taken place. And now the Merodrian Empire will gather all of its armies, all of its special armies for situations like this, like an assassination of an important state figure, and they all come over here, all the armies over here, back into this major city, and they see all the 91 culprits flee. Where they flee? Well, it turns out they flee once again, like many centuries ago, into Teria. Well, it turns out that some of these people that have been left behind will get interrogated by the Merodrian Empire, and it will turn out that they are actually successors of the former Al-Democran terrorist organization that resided over here many centuries ago. And when Zim of Valens the 28th hears this, he will do exactly the same thing that his ancestors did. And it is on March 11th, 748 AD that the Merovingian Empire barges into Teria. Like how they did many centuries ago, they hop into Teria and start to invade it and raid the nation in search for the 91 Aldimocra successors. They'll go over here and start to pillage some of the Terian major cities. Also, they'll go around here into this major city, and how they did many centuries prior, they'll go into each house and execute everyone that they find on the spot that they feel like is a culprit of this assassination. The invasion, or the raid better said, will go very well, and Merodria will take 4 Terian major cities. But then this news of the Merodrian invasion will reach the Terian capital. The current leader, King Alan X, will be very mad about this, and compared to what Teria had did centuries earlier, they'll send a letter over to the Merodrian Empire. The letter will get opened by a Merodrian nobleman and handed over to the leader, and the letter is very shocking. And the letter turns out that it's a declaration of war by Teria on Merodria. Teria will no longer stay behind and let all the people, all these nations, all these ethnicities get killed by Merodria. They'll no longer allow for their people to get raided and to die. So with this, Teria declares war on Merodria and will have the start of one of the greatest wars in history, the biggest so far, the War of Empires. Terian elite forces and the king, King Alan X, will come over here to this front and proceed to save their nation as they push Merodria back over here into this Cadousian front, re-liberating 2 of the major cities they had in here, followed by them pushing Merodria over here into these fronts, but they kinda stop advancing over here into this major city, as this is one of the biggest major cities of Merodria, being the former capital of the nation of Kadosh. But Teria will see success in repelling these attacks and even pushing back to the Merodrian border and start to do some pushes of their own. And then we'll see Teria send its armies over here into Merodria and also start to invade it, quickly taking one major city and splitting Merodria here into these 2 parts and taking another major city. And now it turns out that maybe the Merodrian Empire was not as prepared for this war as Teria is starting to do well. Let's not forget though, Merodria is into an alliance with the Roman Empire and the nation of Galicia over here into the Iberian Peninsula. So when Teria starts to invade into Merodria, Merodria will call on to its 2 allies, the Roman Empire and Galicia, to join the war and help them destroy Teria. But it turns out really neither of these nations' attacks will get repelled that much, as Merodria does take a major city back and they reconnect their land over here, but also Teria comes in and takes back this major city and almost pushes Merodria out of their nation. But when the front between Teria and Merodria looks around like this, we'll have something very bad happening for the Star Alliance, as Aldicta comes and declares war on the stars. And Aldicta is aware that going here into the capital and take it is far from the best idea, so they'll do something arguably way more smarter, arguably way more dumber. They'll send their armies straight into the north and take as much land as they can. They'll hop across all of this land of Merodria, they'll essentially pillage it and take it over like this, and Merodria is caught off guard by this attack, as they kinda saw Aldicta joining the war, but also on the other side they thought it would stay neutral, as they might have been a bit scared of Merodria. But at the end of the day, no, Aldicta joins and absolutely crashes Merodria, as they also go here into this major city and take it and cause a lot of trouble and a lot of issues for Merodria, as now their capital is under threat. Merodrian forces will be pushed back from the Cadousian regions down here onto this front so that they don't lose their capital, and this will be perfect for Teria and what they are about to do. As now Teria reliberates all of its territory, hops into these major cities and takes them all, and then they go around here and start to threaten these two major cities of Merodria. Merodria has just seen a huge defeat in this war, and they have lost almost all of their Cadousian regions, which could lead to Teria leaking in over here into Africa and collapse Merodria. Merodria will be successful in repelling Aldicta though, mostly around these capital areas, as this is where they send most of their troops. They take back that major city over in there, and then they send some more of their armies over in here and move across these territories and take back another major city, and then they go over here and re-liberate all of their part over here into the coastal part where Aldicta had not that many troops, and this is how the front will end up looking like. But there's a certain someone who is not very happy, and this is the Romani Empire, as they start to see Merodria as actually being weak and not being able to defend itself. And the Romani Empire is about to get even more upset when someone new joins the war on the side of Teria. And we'll have the Triangle Alliance joining the war on the side of Teria, and they'll declare war on the Star Alliance to regain back their old territories. And this will kinda unofficially put Aldicta and Teria into the Triangle Alliance, but for now this doesn't really matter, and what actually matters is the war. As Stanish now starts to invade over here into these parts of the Romani Empire and take these two major cities, having a lot of success. But then the Romani Empire retaliates. They are quite strong, and they'll repel away Danish from this front and take back this major city and push them back out. Something even worse happens, as now the Romani Empire starts to invade over here into Danish, takes one major city, and then they do something horrible as they make a landing over in here into the Adriatic Sea and push towards this major city, and now it seems like Danish is in a lot of trouble. Actually not really, as Danish will now repel away these attacks. They didn't really have that many troops sent over here actually, and they retake their major city, but they do not manage to kick the Romani Empire back out of their nation, as the Romani Empire is still the third strongest nation in the world. Now going to Andalusia, they are not really strong, they cannot really fight both Galicia and the Romani Empire, so they'll do a pretty smart strategy. It's called send all your units up to their capital and cause as much chaos as possible, and this is exactly what they do, as they encircle their capital, and from here they take these parts, they go and take this major city, and actually this encirclement ends up so bad that Galicia actually loses its capital. Turns out Galicia all this time was more of a Romani Empire puppet state, and this will be shown in this war, as actually Andalusia will be quite successful in invading them, despite the fact that neither Andalusia is that strong. But all their hopes come crashing down when the Romani Empire sent its troops and they re-liberate Andalusia and then start to advance into Andalusia, and they destroy them. They absolutely smack them around, take these two major cities, also including the fact that Andalusia doesn't really have that many major cities. And then when you also include the fact that they are being invaded by two nations, it's not really very good for them, as now they lose this huge plot of land over here to Galicia. But Andalusia doesn't completely fall, as they hold on to these coastal parts with their capital and their last major city. Despite the successes of the Romani Empire, in Merodria is not going any better at all, as now Teria proceeds to fully kick out the Merodrian Empire out of Asia, as they take the entire Cadousian region and they take the entire Sinai Peninsula, and they are now stuck at the gates between the African and Asian continents. This is while Aldicta continues its pushes around these areas of Merodria, as now the whole southern division of Merodria is pretty much dead, and this area over here into the west of the nation is considered unrecapturable, as Merodria doesn't really have that many armies to retake this area, so they are mostly putting all of it here into their capital to ensure that no one takes it. But then the leader Zim of Zealands the 28th has a rage outburst, and he takes all of its armies and push it down over here, pushing back the Aldicton advancements over into here. And then they send their offensive armies over the Aldicton border, starting to invade it. They take these two major cities and near the gates of the Aldicton capital, but then they stop and then they retreat. This is the first time something like this has happened to Merodria, where they just kinda start invading and then all of a sudden they fall very far behind. As now Aldicta sends their armies back across the border, having even more success. They take this major city and then they send their armies over here towards these coastal cities of Merodria, which are some of their biggest major cities. And now we are gonna find out why this has all happened. Whoa! Well, it turns out that a huge rebellion pops over here into the Merodrian Empire, here into the Algely regions, back where the old nation used to reside. These people, well, being ethnic Algelians, as now they rebel from the Merodrian Empire and are looking forward towards regaining their independence, as they take back that little enclave in there, and then they start to push over here into these Moroccan regions, where even more rebellions pop out into this major city. Then the two groups unite into one, and then they push over here, and eventually all of the Moroccan part falls to the rebellion. Merodrian invasion troops will now come over here onto this front to fight the rebellion, but it's already a bit too late, as now Merodria is fighting on 3 fronts, losing on all of them. When this happens, the Romani Empire and Galicia will quickly accelerate their invasion of Andalusia and proceed to take over the entire nation and capitulate it. Then on the Tanitian front, we'll have the Romani Empire make another landing over in here, and they'll split Tanish into 2 pieces, which are now fighting on their own. And then when all of this happens, when Merodria is about to fall, we'll have Teria doing something purely evil. Using their ancient claim over here into Djibouti, they'll do something very evil with it, and this is to go from here and invade into these major cities of Merodria. Merodria is stunned by this move. They didn't think that Teria will use this claim for anything. Most of the people even forgot that Teria even owns this. They haven't used it in a very long time. But in this war, in the War of Empires, they use it to take these 2 very, very important and huge Merodrian major cities. And this is gonna mark the end. As now the Algelian rebellion will start to grow over here into the Lovian parts. All of these regions that Merodria has annexed over centuries are now coming back to bite them and get their revenge, as now also the people of Lovia are rebelling away from Merodria and joining the Algelian rebellion. Merodria really doesn't have any troops left to fight and to defend their nation, and this will be shown by the fact that they are losing on all fronts. Now they lose this major city over here. Now Teria, with the help of all of their allies, will come into Africa and take the 3rd biggest major city of Merodria, the major city where the marriage was hosted, then proceed to take even more major cities, and then it is here that Merodria ends up losing all of its Mediterranean access to Teria and to the Algelian rebellion. And now we'll have Teria moving through these territories of the Merodrian Empire, push over here into these territories, nearing the 2nd biggest major city of Merodria. Then Teria will proceed to take 1 more major city, and then we'll have the final split take place. And we're gonna have Egypt rebel from Merodria. The old Egyptian nation, a nation that has existed around 700 years ago, a very old nation, but one that has kept its culture and has kept its heritage, and now it's here back on the map centuries after its collapse previously, now back rising from the ashes of the Merodrian Empire. And it is here that now Merodria gets knocked down from the throne and the new most powerful nation in the world is Teria. Now Teria found itself as the new strongest nation in the world and has overtook the collapsing Merodria and will now ensure that it will stay the #1 nation by doing a couple of things. As Teria relinquishes control of these coastal lands over here to Aldicta, and then we'll have the unification between Teria and Egypt as Egypt joins Teria and Teria is growing stronger and stronger and has just become even larger, and then Teria will ensure that it will stay the #1 nation for a very long time, maybe even 1,000 years. As Teria unites over with the Clarion Union, and now we know what the Clarion Union actually was. It was a pact between Teria and the Turkish states to slowly but surely unify Turkey under one state that will then be united with Teria, and now the Clarion Union has fulfilled its actual role, that one being to unite with Teria and help it grow into the strongest nation in the world. And now the world is shocked as a new power had arrived to take the throne from Merodria. And then Teria will gather one of the biggest armies the world has ever seen and start to sweep across Merodria, taking the remains of the nation as basically there is no one here to defend these northern parts, and they take these major cities, and from here Teria has almost completely discombobulated the Merodrian Empire. And the final hits will be dealt by Aldicta as they send their armies through here and encircle the capital of Merodria and start to push over here and cram them back to their original starting place. Merodria is one of the oldest nations in the world, in fact the second oldest, and it has existed for around 3,000 years, ranging from the Merodrian city-state to the Merodrian Republic, to the Merodrian Kingdom, and now to the Merodrian Empire. But in this war, Merodria has been overwhelmed. They have gotten way too many enemies and they are attacked by everyone, even by their own people, considering that the rebellion that has just occurred. Merodria has lost all of its power and all of its wealth, and it turns out that the winner between the debate of Merodria or Aldicta is gonna be Aldicta. They have won the Battle of the OGs, and it is here that Merodria's book finally ends, as the Merodrian Empire falls completely and Merodria no longer exists. But the war is still not over, as there's still one last nation in this war, and this is the Romani Empire alongside its puppet over here in Galicia. They, once they saw Merodria fall, they never surrendered. In fact, they keep fighting. And not only is the Romani Empire still fighting, but they are fighting even more fiercely and even better, as now they take the capital of Tanish and kick them out fully of their mainland, only leaving them in Crete. And they'll even use this opportunity to annex their vassal over here in Galicia and make them a part of their nation, as they don't trust anyone else but themselves. Then they start to advance into Teria, and Teria is actually in a lot of trouble, and although we are just happy that they are the strongest nation in the world, now the world is concerned as the Romani Empire seems to be very unstoppable and ready to take down Teria as a revenge of Merodria. But then the worst thing that could happen for the Romani Empire, aka the Southern Empire, happens, and this will cause them to get absolutely smacked around and get their empire defeated. Derlandia joins the Triangle Alliance. Although in recent episodes I've started showing Derlandia as weak, it's actually very strong and very capable of taking down the Southern Empire, Derlandia being known also as the Northern Empire, and they sweep across these regions of France into the Romani Empire in a very Nazi Germany style, as they take all of this region in just mere months. Also, they start to advance over here into these parts around the Alp mountains. They are very prepared for an invasion in the Alps, and the Romani Empire is now split into two pieces. This will not be the case for that much longer, as now we'll see liberation campaigns plus rebellions happen over here into Andalusia and Galicia, both being united back into Andalusia under a union known as the Siberian Union, aka the Siberian Union. And they will now liberate all of these territories from both nations. As they are now united under one, they re-liberate all of the territories from Andalusia, and then they do the same with Galicia and the Catalonian territories of the Roman Empire. Then they go and take the Balearic Islands, and now the union of the Siberians has been fulfilled. Teria will go and retake its territories over here back from the Roman Empire, and then they help Tanish to make a landing over here in Sparta, and with this we'll have Tanish re-liberate all of their nation just like this, and now Tanish is back to take down the biggest enemy ever. Tanish has suffered too much because of the Roman Empire, and it is in this year and this war that now the empire is about to fall, and now Tanish will move back through their former Yugoslavian territories they owned a very long time ago, even before the War of 1 AD, and then followed by the Landia moving back through these territories. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, Teria makes a landing in Sicily. And then Teria moves through these territories of the Roman Empire, starting to chop down the Southern Empire. With the help of the rebellions, they also make a landing into Sardinia and into Corsica, taking these two islands. And then the Northern Empire will kind of have a race with Teria over who can dissolve the Roman Empire first. But then the Landia sees complications when they reach the very many major cities of the Roman Empire in their core land, and the winner of this race is gonna be Teria, as they snag the capital and this major city. And then in 752 AD we'll have their Landia go over here and swallow the rest. And with this we see the end of the War of Empires. The deadliest war in human history so far had come to an end, a war that has killed an approximate 5% of the world population and led to the demise of the Star Alliance, and most importantly the demise of the Merodian Empire. So let's see this peace treaty and how it will shape the world. Whoa! Well, this is the peace treaty, and we are now gonna break it down from what's the most important to the least important. First of all, Merodria no longer exists. It's not allowed to exist. The peace treaty states clearly that any sort of Merodrian state or Merodrian successor is strictly not allowed to exist, and if it does end up appearing one day, all of the members of the Triangle Alliance, which is Aldicta, Teria, Tanish, the new Siberian Union, and Derlandia will all have to come together and have a coalition against the new state. But over how Merodria is divided, we have the core of Merodria being swallowed by Aldicta. Egypt is annexed by Teria. Also Teria is now huge and the strongest nation in the world, as it took Egypt from Merodria and also has united with the Clerian Union. And for the reminiscences of Merodria over here into Algely and Lovia, we have the new African Union being formed over here into the Mediterranean coast. But now coming over to the Roman Empire and Galicia. First of all, Galicia no longer exists. It's united with Andalusia under the new Siberian Union. Also, as you can see, they decided to remove both of the old nation's capital and move it here into this middle city over here and make it as their capital. But other than this, other than the union between Andalusia and Galicia to form the Siberian Union, we also have the new union take the Catalonian and Balearic parts of the Roman Empire. Also, as you can see, the Roman Empire no longer exists. But first of all, we have Tanish actually being quite underpaid from this war, as they only get one province from the Roman Empire. Also, we see a new Yugoslavian nation being formed over into here. Then, surprisingly enough, we have the Farmers Union getting land to be more exact, they get this one province out of the Romani Empire, and that's mostly as a gift from the Triangle Alliance for the Farmers Union, as they remain neutral during the war. Also, we see a new French state being formed in here. And then we see Derlandia taking a lot of land from the Romani Empire. First of all, they take this French coast over in here into the Atlantic. And then they take a lot of territories here in the south. And for the reminiscences of the Romani Empire, we'll have Derlandia and Teria come together and install a democratic government over in here, and we'll have the formation of the Second Romani Republic. Yep, that's right, the Republic has returned to the Romani Empire, and we now have the Second Romani Republic. And this does it for the peace treaty, and this does it for the war. And other than that, this does it for today's video. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you in the next era, the Age of Fragmentation. Goodbye.